Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. Today I am going to discuss the poem Dover Beach by Matthew Arnold. I have made a video on My Last Duchess by Robert Browning. I'll give the link in the description below. Dover Beach was written during the Victorian period. This was a period which was marked by several growth. The industrial growth, the political growth, the economic growth, as well as the growth in the field of science. Queen Victoria was on the throne and she was the figure who could channelize the country's progress into various measures. But amidst all this progress, there were a few downsides. One of the major downsides was the repression that was there in the field of artistic creativity. Queen Victoria was a conservative woman and the people who rose to power was the conservative middle class. Middle class people have the tendency to prioritize certain aspects of life which focus on conservative ideas. We mostly have two tendencies during this time as well as artistic endeavor was considered. There were one kind of writers who would adhere to these rules and codes that were there on the field of artistic creation so that they could sell their work. Then there were writers who would not care about all this repression. So I am talking about the rise of censorship here. So the writings of some of the writers were banned during this time. With the development in the scientific field, religion was severely questioned. A counter-narrative of Genesis was very difficult for humans to accept. We see that there was science versus religion, progress versus crisis. So these formed the Victorian crisis. As far as Matthew Arnold was concerned, his creative life was in the Victorian era. But he was born during the Romantic period and he also grew up in that period. So during his young age, he witnessed the transition from the Romantic era to the Victorian era. So we see that this witnessing of this transition definitely has some effect on him. For Arnold, the memories of childhood were the memories of the Romantic era. So we have to keep this in mind when we study this poem Dover Beach. Let us begin the poem. The sea is calm tonight, the tide is full, the moon lies fair. Upon the streets, on the French coast, the light gleams and is gone. The cliffs of England stand, glimmering and vast, out in the tranquil bay. We see that there is a beautiful description of the beach. Dover Beach is actually a town and a major ferry port in Kent, that is in southeast of England. It faces France across the Strait of Dover at the narrowest part of English Channel. The surrounding chalk cliffs are known as the White Cliffs. The words here he uses are very noticeable. These words are calm, peaceful. These words show that there is no tension and no storm or no turbulence. So everything on this beach is very beautiful and very glorious. On the French coast, the watchtower is brightened up and the cliffs of England, the rocky cliffs which stand for the solidarity. And the strength he feels that is the country's strength. So these mountains, they stand strong and tall. So the whole place he describes as a very peaceful and a very beautiful place. So there you feel very secure when you see the sights around you. Let's get on with the poem. Come to the window, sweet is the night's air. So we see that he talks to someone. He calls someone to join him to enjoy the beauty of the sea. What begins as a description turns out to be a dramatic monologue because there is a silent listener and the presence of the listener is established here. Only from the long line of spray where the sea meets the moon-blanched land. Listen, you hear the greeting roar of pebbles which the waves drop back and fling. At their return up the high strand, begin and cease and then begin again, with tremulous cadence slow, and bring the eternal note of sadness in. Just when we are thinking that Arnold is going to describe a place, he calls someone to join him, to enjoy the view. He is talking about a completely different thing now. He is talking about the line where the sea meets the land. The land is lit up with the moonlight. So he hears that the waves come and crash. And when crashing, they create a kind of a grating roar. This is a sound that is not soothing, it irritates the ear. The sea flings back the pebbles and the waves are almost acting as humans. They are taking up the things and they are throwing them back. So the waves are personified here. The pebbles cannot make any conscious sound by itself. But here the description shows like this, that the pebbles are emitting a kind of sound that is equivalent to crying. So as if they are throwing up a resisting voice. But if you listen to it closely, there is a certain rhyme to it. It is creating a pattern which makes the poet extremely sad. We all know that the sea and the sea of waves generate philosophical mood among people who have very imaginative minds. And these people are also the people who respond to nature. So on one hand, we see that there is a beautiful scenery as he describes, but on the other hand, there is a noise, the noise of the grating pebble, which is not very soothing to the ears. Let us get on with the poem. Sophocles long ago heard it on the Aegean, and it brought into his mind the turbid ebb and flow of human misery. We find also in the sound a thought, hearing it by this distant northern sea. He talks about Sophocles. Sophocles is a Greek author of many tragedies like Antigone and Oedipus Rex. Sophocles always wrote about human misery in connection with fate. So it is something very melancholic. Arnold feels that Sophocles also heard the sound of these grating pebbles while he was walking by the banks of the Aegean Sea. This is a sea between Greece and Anatolia, which is now present-day Turkey. So that sea becomes a symbol of human misery, bringing the waves and waves of human misery. Here Arnold is connecting his experience to that of the experience of Sophocles. And he also, by doing this, tries to establish a universal pattern of melancholy. A mood of tragedy, helplessness and a creative imagination is established. Human misery is compared to the waves of misery, which is turbid. Turbid means not clear. The human misery takes away the clarity from human mind, and he talks about Sophocles hearing the note of sadness in the sea. Arnold wants us to think that the sight is something that deceives us, whereas the sound gives us the truth. This is a paradox which is a romantic way of believing. We see examples of this in the Skylark or in Grecian Urn. According to the Romantics, the visible reality takes away our power of imagination, whereas the sound provides us the capability to imagine what this sound is about. We see that in Skylark, the poet talks about the sound of the Skylark. The sound actually helps us to understand what the visual reality cannot. As we discussed earlier, that Arnold has spent his entire childhood during the Romantic period. So this romantic ideas cropping up in his poetry is something very real. He also aspired to have a bond with nature, but the emerging doubts and conflict of this age did not allow him to have that bond with nature. Let us get on with the poem. The sea of faith was once too at the full, the round earth's shore lay like the fold of a bright girdle furled. But now I only hear its melancholy, long withdrawing roar, retreating to the birth of the night wind down the vast ages dread and naked shingles of the world. We directly come to the question of conflict. Arnold is talking about the sea of faith, which was a part of the world. The faith is compared to the wide sea which protected this world. In the past, whenever the humans suffered, he said that this sea of faith was a decorative protection around the human beings. This is not necessarily the faith, the Christian faith. This is a faith in divinity. This is a faith that if you do things right, right things will happen to you. The sea of faith helps people to get on with the suffering whenever they are down. But the scientific development takes away the faith to some extent, and it takes away the false sense of security which adds to human confidence. He is describing the sea as a girdle or a belt which protects or supports the torso. So when he is describing this, he uses visual images with the words like bright, full to paint a beautiful picture. Then he comes to the part where he is talking about what he hears. He already established that seeing is something deceiving, but hearing is more truthful. When he describes the sound, the words correlate to a sense of negation, a negative feeling. The sea of faith is retreating. So what happens when the sea of faith retreats? When the sea withdraws, the coastline is left naked. So similarly, when the faith is withdrawn, the vulnerability and the weakness of the humans are left open out on the front. The sea of faith is now gone, and the vulnerability and the weakness of human beings are lying like naked stones, unprotected. The words retreating, withdrawing, these words symbolize the sense of negativity and faithlessness, unprotected, vulnerable state of man which he hears from the sound. Apparently there is a beautiful sight, but he hears something different altogether. Let's get on to the next part. Our love, let us be true to one another, for the world which seems to lie before us like a land of dreams, so various, so beautiful, so new, hath really neither joy nor love nor light, nor certitude nor peace, nor help for pain. And we are here as on a darkling plain, swept with confused alarms of struggle and flight, where ignorant armies clash by night. To whom he is talking? The people say that Matthew Arnold wrote this poem when he was on his honeymoon. So definitely he was talking to his wife. He's telling his wife that when the whole world is rotten up, so depriving, the only thing they can fall back on is love. He is not talking about being desirable or being passionate. He is only talking about being true to one another. That is the bare minimum thing the lovers can do for each other in this rotten up world. He knows that the world is an illusion because he writes, seems to lie before us. The world is an appearance. The world is wearing a mask, a disguise. So we see that there is a pun in the word lie. So love is the only thing that brings redemption to this faithless world. So when there is no peace, no contentment in the outside world, the people can fall back on the inner peace that comes with love. We see that he talks about the land of dreams. See this sight That side before us is a rosy side. It just pretends to be a beautiful scene, but it is just laying in front of us and deceiving us. But the world does not give actually any assurance. This world will not give you any kind of remedy or cure whenever you need. We see that he uses the word darkling. Darkling is an archaic word. It means a dark place which is deprived of any consoling light. He is talking about the sound of a battle. So many critics say that he is talking about the Peloponnesian War, which was fought during 415 BC. This was a time when the two opponents, they fight each other in complete darkness, and in absence of any light, they ended up killing their own people. So this is the condition of the world. We see that everything is very beautiful and rosy apparently, but we do not see that people are not helping each other. They are kind of killing each other, or they are trying to harm each other. So it is a depressing world, it is a rotten world. In Arnold, we see that he uses a lot of classical reference. It is because Arnold had a certain love for the classical age, and he thought that civilization and human creativity were at their best during this classical era. The poet ends with a note of melancholy, but he is also very hopeful, and his optimism is rooted in reality. He knows that it is a deceiving world, but love is the only thing that he can have faith on. But is that enough? He is not sure, because certainty is not something that this age offers. He has grown up during the Romantic era, and he derived the Romanticism from his childhood. But that is not enough to sustain him now in this Victorian period of doubt. Therefore, he looks for redemption, and he finds none, because nature is also weeping with him. So what is providing him the assurance? The only thing that is providing him assurance is the love between himself and his wife. So if we want to talk about the theme of this poem, the themes are the Victorian England, where the situation of man is described as caught in between the doubt and faith. Here also we see that the suppressed individuality and creativity, the individualism is taken away in the name of utilitarianism. So utilitarianism is something that does not take into consideration the human emotion. Here we also see that the hope of redemption. So he talks about, if the world fails you, where will you find the redemption? The dominant notes of this poem are sadness, sorrow, melancholy, but as well as optimism and romanticism. If we discuss the form of this poem is a dramatic monologue, but there is no action. In Browning, we have seen that there are a lot of physical actions going on. This is rather a static representation of thoughts. So there is of course the presence of the silent listener, but this is more like a poetic monologue. This poem is about Arnold as a philosopher, where he uses poetry as a mode of theorizing his own ideas. This is Dover Beach by Matthew Arnold. For more explanation of poetry as well as literary theory, keep an eye on my channel. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.